if the gods of music creation were really unkind and took away all my plugins, but said I could keep one, which would it be? Well, that might be a strange question, but it didn't actually take me long to come to a decision. And it's not because it's necessarily the one I use the most often, and it's not necessarily my favourite, although obviously it is one of them. So I thought I would try to answer this question on camera and tell you why. If you've seen some of my other videos, then you probably know what it is. If you haven't, I shall tell you. It is Omnisphere. Now that will probably not come as a great surprise to many people, but let me tell you why. Now, just to be absolutely clear, I have in no way mastered Omnisphere. But one of the reasons why I like it is because it is so usable even if you haven't mastered it. It works for preset tweakers like myself. I am a self-confessed finder, preset and tweaker guy. I'll say more about this in a moment. But it also works well for sound designers. It has depths which invite sound designers to plumb. With certain plugins, you need to have a certain amount of knowledge to get the most out of them. And of course, more knowledge means not only more responsibility, but more usability. And that applies to Omnisphere as well, but you don't need it to get a massive amount out of it. The presets in Omnisphere are actually very, very good. And you can also tweak them very, very easily, particularly in Omnisphere 3, where they stuck this global control panel right on the front. So for someone who likes to tweak presets, this is ideal. You can work on your music and the sound without having to dive into the innards of the instrument. I use it as a composer, not as a sound designer. I want to get good, interesting sounds out of it, and I do. Now, if you're not familiar with Omnisphere, I'm assuming that at least you know it is quite expensive. But what is it exactly? Well, it's a hybrid instrument. It's not just a synthesizer as such. It combines sample playback with hybrid forms of synthesis, wavetable, granular, DSP oscillators, and so on. Now, I made a video about Omnisphere 3 when it came out, link in the description, and someone said, oh, it's just a rumbler. No, it isn't. It is as far from a rumbler as you can get. And you can layer all these different sound sources quite easily to create really massive and evolving and changing and different sounds. Now, I know many people think the filter is the heart of a synthesizer, and if you're one of them, then rejoice, because Omnisphere, I think it has 34 filters. What do you do with 34 filters? Well, they cover a range of types, from the crisp digital filters to gritty filters to analog type filters. So whatever your sound preference is, there will be a filter there to match it. And of course, one of the hallmarks of synth sounds tend to be modulating the filter. And if you try some of these different filters and change the cutoff and the resonance and so on, you can hear they do produce a different sound. And speaking of modulation, yes, there are deep modulation options if you want to dig into the innards of the instrument, but you don't have to. There is the modulation wheel, aftertouch, macro controls. You can get a lot out of it using pretty simple and basic controls. And this is where many atmospheric, ambient and cinematic patches come alive. let's talk about the effects. There are about 50 effects, not just delays and reverbs and saturation, but some interesting creative effects as well. Now, I have to say, these are not my favorite effect designs. They are designed to look like hardware effects units. I much prefer graphical interfaces so you can see what is happening to the sound and what the effect is doing rather than just tweaking knobs. However, the effects are very, very usable, and in Omnisphere 3 they are presented also as a VST plug-in rack, so you can apply them to other plugins if I had any, which of course in this scenario I do not. But this does mean you can do just about everything effects wise that you would probably want to do to a sound without needing any extra plugins. So when you bring all this together, you get a set of sounds, thousands of sounds which sound great right out of the box. You get a set of controls which make it very easy to tweak and adjust any sound. So you can concentrate on the business of composition, of making music without being distracted by which knob do I need to tweak to get this, or can this produce such and such a sound. The chances are Omnisphere probably can. Now, having said all that, I freely admit I have barely scratched the surface, but that is exactly the reason why I like it. Every time I go to it, I find, or at least I try to find something new, something I didn't know about it before. So it grows with you in a sense. You don't need to know everything about it in order to use it, and I don't know how many instruments you could say that about. So if I had to choose one instrument, one plugin, one tool which worked at every level, this would be it. Even if you are a preset tweaker like me. So if you could only have one plugin, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again in the next video.